Hello, my name is Tori, and I'm making this video because, well, for a few reasons, but the biggest one is I want to share with my mental health homies like what I've been through and what I wish I would have done sooner, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and ultimately ending at getting a brain scan. Not like an MRI type brain scan or a CAT scan, but going to a specific clinic that does brain scans for mental health diagnosis and treatment purposes. So that all being said, I'm going to share some personal stuff, some rawness, some whatever. So warning, I'm going to talk about my mental health. That does include suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, self-harm, such as cutting, burning type of stuff. So if you are at all feeling vulnerable or not safe or having a moment, don't watch it. You can save it if you want to come back and watch it later. Wait and watch it with someone who you care about and loves you and is going to keep you safe. Watch it in clips. I'm going to try to figure out how to be a cool YouTube person and like make chapters. So if you want, you can just skip to all the treatments that I've tried and skip over all the my journey so far and my history, so to speak. So just know that that's options. Even if I can't figure out the chapter thing, I'll put timestamps. That way you can just skip to whatever you want to skip to. So also a note before I publish this, I'm going to have some medical and mental health professionals review it to make sure that I'm being responsible in what I share, because my goal is not to give anybody ideas, but I also think it's important for like my credibility in speaking about this, that some of what I've been through, what I still go through, all the things. So I think it's important for me to be as vulnerable and raw with you as possible, so that way you could maybe relate and get some help and not have to deal with the mess that I've had to deal with. So that's my ultimate goal, is to speak out for mental health people and show you some options for treatment that maybe you've never heard about, never been told about, because unfortunately it's not a widespread thing. So again, please, please, please pause the video if you're feeling triggered, watch with a friend or loved one if you're not feeling safe or in a safe mental space, finish it in pieces, do what you have to do to stay safe. Okay. I have shared on like my Facebook some like vague or generic history about like my mental health journey and what I've been through, and saying kudos to the people that have helped me get through it, because I want them to be applauded. They're heroes, honestly. So I've shared that. So I also want to kind of wrap up what I have shared on my Facebook. So it's kind of just a closed book, it's done and over kind of thing. I have made notes. So if you see me pausing, looking up to the side, I'm going to try to clip it so it's not a random weird pause, silent pause, but I'm reading my notes to make sure that I cover everything, because this video has actually been on my mind for several months. And over that several months, there's been days where I have ideas of what I want to share, what I want to say, how specifically I want to do something, or what order, or whatever. And I want to make sure that I'm following that. So doing a video instead of another post, because I feel like this is going to reach more people. I don't want or have a lot of like Facebook friends other than people that I actually know. So I'm not going to add some Joe Bloke stranger. This way, whether we're Facebook friends or not, if you need help, if you need guidance, you can see this, because I'm going to try to share it everywhere. Not in any way doing this for the likes, for the attention, for the sympathy, for the whatevers. Hopefully it reaches the people it needs to reach. And if even just one person gets help and relief from this, that's my goal. Hopefully it reaches more, and like I said, the people who need it. But if it doesn't, my goal is just to help one person. Side note, again, I really hope that if anybody who knows me is watching this, you don't feel like you have to stay away. I'm not contagious. Mental health isn't contagious. I don't think anybody would know the struggles that I face on the daily basis without me bringing attention to it. So if you're my friend, you're my acquaintance, you're my whatever, try not to treat me any differently, because that's just going to suck for me and, whatever. So there you go. Oh, okay, getting into it. I am going to share some stuff about my upbringing, not necessarily like placing blame or anything. It is what it is. We're here, like whatever. But I want to make sure everyone knows, like, I'm not under any illusion that I am alone in my mental health issues, my upbringing, my adulthood, all the things that make my brain what it is. So just know that I'm not trying to say like I have it the worst that it could be. I know that there are people every day, children are getting neglected and abused, and that super sucks. Um, there's actually a couple friends of mine that have had more dysfunctional upbringings than I did, and thankfully they don't have the like starting point of mental illness that I very clearly do. And I've said this to some of my closest people for a while, like my mom and my therapist. They know that I feel like I was born broken. That's the only way I can rationalize where I'm at, so to speak. Um, so there you go. Um, feeling like I was born broken, and then all the stuff that I've witnessed, all the stuff I heard, all the stuff I felt, all the stuff I didn't feel, all the things I said, all the things I caused, like just all the stuff um, broke me down more or broke me more. Um, as my mom will say, there's always someone who has it worse. It's okay to not be bulletproof. It's okay to have the feelings and the thoughts and the whatevers about what I went through. And um, I can have it's okay to have feelings and to acknowledge that other people have had it worse. Like two things can be true. I actually watched Arnold Schwarzenegger's docu-series Netflix thing or whatever, and he talks openly about like his upbringing, and he had a brother, and they both had a pretty similar experience with their dad. He was an alcoholic and sometimes abusive and always very stern and strict, whereas Arnold grew in strength, and it made him kind of, well, he wasn't broken by it. However, looking at what his brother went through and how he lived and ultimately how he died, you can kind of correlate, like, okay, maybe he had underlying health issues, or it just clearly affected him in a different way than it did Arnold, and that's okay. Like, we're all different, we all have our unique DNA and like all that kind of stuff. So um, let's see. I bring that up because I just want to paint that picture that we're all born with different DNA. And in this case, Arnold might have had a solid functioning brain, and his brother, like I said, might have been broken. And that's okay. We are born how we are. There's nothing that we can do to change it. Lastly, still kind of going over my intro here. I want to say, like, to people who see me on the reg or know me or whatever, that I know a lot of times I can come off like, just by looking at me, maybe rude, or I've been told I look intimidating. I just want to promise, like, I'm not trying to have super RBF. 90% of my day, I'm in an argument or a spinning wheel of awful things like going through my mind, and I don't have a poker face, so I can't hide that. I, so to speak, wear my emotions on my sleeve. But I say that because if I'm pulled out of it, I will engage, I'll be friendly, I will, smile and talk to you and like all the things. So don't think that just because I look like a raging bitch that I am one. And, don't ever hesitate to approach me or talk to me because of how my face looks. I recognize also that I can be hard to deal with. It's hard for me to deal with myself. It's hard to know day to day what kind of day it's going to be, if I'm going to be warm and open and chatty and all the things, or if I'm going to be distant and shut down because that's all I can manage. I get that. And I apologize, for the people that I see again on the reg, or, my friends. Like, sometimes I'm super invested and I'm with you 100%. And other times I'm like, I can't even deal with me, let alone deal with you. Or, even just a light conversation about the weather. Too much in those times. Like, I just need to be left alone, and everybody leave me alone and ignore me. And, when I'm back, as I call it, my mountain, which I'll get over that in a minute, then, we can carry on and everything. So just know, like, I get that it might feel like I'm on a teeter-totter to my friends or family or whatever. Trust me, I get it. And I apologize, but just know, like, it is kind of what it is. And I work on it nonstop. I try, I promise. Just know that, I guess, going in. Okay. Let's see. I wanted to say that, like, for me, words are powerful. There's some words that I don't even say because they give me a reaction to them, like emesis. You'll have to look that up if you don't know what it is, because I don't want to say it. But when I hear someone say the non-fancy medical term of emesis, I'm like, ugh. and I don't like it. Like I said, it gives me a reaction. So maybe 3 years ago, I started naming facets of my brain different things because it just sucks to constantly say my brain. So when I'm talking about my brain is named Brynn. Um, I picked that name because it's something easy I could remember. It also means going uphill, and I feel like that's my life every single moment. So, Brynn, if you hear me later talk about Brynn, I'll try to, stay calling it what it is. But if you hear me say Brynn, I'm talking about my brain, my mind. Um, a little bit ago, I said my mountain. If you hear me talking about my mountain, that's when I'm manic. That's, if you don't know anybody with bipolar or whatever, manic is essentially like 120 miles an hour, super chatty, gotta move, gotta do all the things. Very like driven to get stuff done, goal set, plan stuff, like just super duper charged in every way of being like a human. And then the opposite of that, when I'm in my valley, is what I called my depression. That is, I'm gonna get into it later, so we'll just say that. And then when I say numb, that's kind of my baseline. Like so, some of my hippie friends that are out there with me will know what empathy or empath means. Basic, I'm sure, honestly, everybody kind of knows what it means, but it just means like I feel things. I can relate to people on a really deep level because I feel what they feel in that moment. So I have a very high frequency of empathy, meaning, again, I feel big, even ones that don't belong to me. A recent example of this was I was in therapy and we were talking about how borderline personality disorders can kind of grow out of it when they get to like their 50s. Like there's just a switch in the brain that shuts that part of their mind off and they no longer have the manifestations of borderline. And we were talking about that, and I mean, I was already kind of crying. I was already having a day, and I just cried even more because I was like, I can't imagine the guilt that they must feel. Like when that switch goes off and they can look back and realize the things they thought, the things they said, the things they did, the things they didn't, whatever, all the things that they must now regret. And would it almost be better to keep that borderline manifestation till death or, whatever. And I mean, I said it more eloquently. I don't really remember exactly what I said, but even my therapist was like, those are big feelings because I was just distraught over what these imaginary people are going through. Um, so, anyways, I also, I mean, this is a very old example, I guess, but just the one that I still clearly very much remember is when I was younger. I mean, not even 10 years old. I don't know how old I was exactly, but I went to a funeral with my grandparents, and I don't think I knew the person who died. If I did, I it never met them, kind of a thing. But I was hysterical. I was so distraught of this person dying. And I remember my grandma being so embarrassed because she was even like, "You didn't even know her. Like, calm down. What is your deal?" And it didn't matter. I like was surrounded by all these people who were sad, and nobody was actually, there might have been a couple of teary eyes, here and there, but nobody was crying to the extent that I was. And the only thing I can say to explain it looking back is I was feeling all of their sadness. I was feeling all of those people's loss and everything. And I was so young, I didn't know how to put it in my pocket and deal with it later. So I just bawled. And like, I remember curling up to my grandpa. And I mean, he probably thought I was trying to like get under his clothes. I was so curled up next to him. But it just sucked. It was awful. I also wanted to share this GIF or whatever that I saw recently, and it says that some of us are just wired to experience life deeply. We don't just look at its sunsets, we feel them. We are moved by the simple things in life, and when others cry, we cry too. Our emotions run deep, and energy is our first language. We long for authentic connections that nourish our souls. Most of that is true. Energy, I would say, is definitely my language, but only because I'm so like, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it dictates every moment of my life based on where my energy level is. So yeah, for sure. One other thing I kind of wanted to share, and I guess just another little FYI, like the reason I'm kind of sharing my past and stuff and the way I think is, again, just so there's a little bit of credibility and validity to like what I'm saying and what I'm trying to bring awareness to and advocate for, but also because some people might not have access to a therapist. They might not have a mom like I do who, you know, has been a nurse for a million years and can deal with the feelings that I bring to her. And seeing somebody talk about them and bring a voice to them and, broadcast it, and whoever ends up seeing this might help them know, hey, maybe this is something that I don't have to deal with alone. Maybe this is something that I can get help for. Maybe this is a reason I should go to therapy. Maybe this is a reason I should see a psychologist or psychiatrist, whoever prescribes mental health meds. I just call them my drug people. But so there's all that. But one last piece from my childhood that just kind of shows like how deep I feel things. When I was younger, I always said, well, I'm going to be an army nurse. And this had to have been sometime after I was 10 because my dad re-enlisted in the army when I was 10. And the reason I said that is because, like I just said, my dad went into the army and my mom was a nurse. So I couldn't just be a nurse because that might make my dad feel like I loved him less if I didn't follow in his footsteps. I couldn't just go to the army because, again, that might make my mom feel like I loved her less. Or I went to MEPS and process to join the military and had every intention of being a medic of sorts in the army. And I don't know if this is just me and Brynn or if this is like a normal thing, because again, I'm under no illusion that I'm alone in this. I can't describe something if I'm not going through it. So that's why I've had so many notes about this video over the last several months, and because I'm not going to remember how I felt last time I was on the mountain or last time I was in the deep valley or whatever this. I mean, I do remember, but I can't put myself in those shoes, and it's really hard to explain when I'm not actually going through it. So anyways, um so this section I just want to share like some of my physical manifestations of Brynn. Sometimes, and actually this has been happening a lot the last few days, I'll have like a thought or a I don't know, whatever, and like my heart stops. And I don't mean like I'm clinically dead or anything like that. If you have like AFib or a flutter or something like that, I assume it's similar to that because like my heart stops for, I don't know, 5-10 seconds, and then it suddenly like floods my body with blood and my veins dilate, everything to get oxygen to the places that I've been without it for the last 10 seconds. And I get like splitting headaches up here and the chest pain and the palpitations. And like I just feel shaky and everything until like it gets caught up or whatever and subsides. Sometimes that could be minutes, sometimes it could be hours, sometimes it's days. Like I had a couple yesterday and I'm still like shaky today. And that's not just being nervous. I don't even know if you can tell that, but that's not just being nervous about talking in a camera because I'm kind of used to it now. But that's just the hangover essentially of my heart stopping. So on the days that my brain is in the valley, meaning I'm super depressed, and I'm going to share with you what that looks like later on, but I'm trying to keep my topics lined up so that way, again, you can go through and skip and do whatever you want to do. But on the days that Brynn is down and in the valley, it's a pain that I can't even describe. I'm restless. I'm constantly moving my toes, my feet. I have to lay down because I have no energy to do anything else. So I'm moving my ankles, my feet, I'm just sliding them against each other, or sliding them against the couch or the bed or whatever. I'm curling my toes. I'm fidgeting, with my whatever. And it's like a psychological pain. And I can't comfort it. There's nothing I could take that would make that feel any better. I've tried taking hot baths with Epsom salts. It just feels like my cells are being suffocated and there's nothing I can do to get enough air to them. And it just sucks. I remember a few months back, I was wanting to actually get off the couch. I don't know what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to get off the couch and I could not move. It was like I was completely paralyzed. My eyes were open. I was looking at my arm like, move, move arm, get up, do something, like itch your nose, because apparently my nose always itches, do something, and nothing happened. I couldn't even talk. Like I could not do anything. And gosh, it felt like I didn't check the time, but it felt like it was 15, 20 minutes. I was just standing there screaming at my body in my head, move, do something, get up. Even if you just turn to the other side, like just move. Why am I just frozen in this position? And I actually started sweating because, like I said, I mean, I was working real hard in my head to get my body to move. And it just felt like I had, like a million-pound weighted blanket crushing me down, and I couldn't do anything. And it sucked. And it was terrifying because there was no reason for me to be like that. Um, that's only happened a couple of times that I can recall where, I was basically like again, just a humongous weight. The house was laying on top of me and I couldn't do anything. Um, but it's terrifying each and every time. Even if I tell myself, okay, we're just gonna have to ride this out and deal with it. Another part of Brynn is every time I experience something, it feels like that's it. That's finally the one that's gonna end it all. This one for talking about my physical body is I don't realize I'm stressed until I start having the physical manifestations of it. So one of them, and this has actually been going on since August or September of last year, um, I have this twitch in my right eye, and I don't know if people can actually see it when it's happening. I feel like you can see it because it's like that, and I like my eye flutters into my visual acute my line of sight, so I'm assuming people can know it. And I just like try to put my hand here until it stops, or at least they know that I know it's doing it. But yeah, it's so annoying. Anyways, I do get pretty severe headaches. And thankfully, again, those aren't that frequent. The most recent, like, physical thing that really was pretty debilitating is I hold a lot of stress and tension in my neck and shoulders. And it got so tight and tense that I couldn't even turn my head a little bit without getting nauseous because it was so immensely tight up here. Think I actually, gosh, I think in the matter of 2 or 3 weeks, I had probably 7 massages. Um, that's a lot, that many in a very short time, and I wasn't getting the relief from it because I think it was like a psychosomatic symptom, so nothing was actually gonna help it until I could figure out why I was so stressed and chill the F out. So, there you have it. One other thing, about like the physical side, and I'm not trying to sound like, lazy girl excuses, but it's just the truth. Um, I so have gained a lot of weight. I'm not saying that I was model thin before I started meds or anything, but I was fit, And I've done one bikini competition, and weightlifting used to be my life. And I'll go over that kind of more I think later. But once I started meds, there's like zero antidepressants or antipsychotics that don't come with serious weight gain. Um, there's a couple that like have neutral, weight gain kind of thing, or it's supposed to only be like 5 or 10 pounds. My adult life, I started taking meds in 2021. Um, since then, I have gained 70 pounds, I think. And a lot of that is, yeah, because I couldn't deal with anything. I couldn't exercise. I couldn't be seen because I was so like, whatever that day. But a lot of that was the meds. So, anyways, I'm, trying to lose the weight, trying to do all this stuff. And a lot of people are like, oh, just go on walks. I'm going on a walk, whether I have headphones on, walking with somebody, or, just silent and listening to nature. It is overwhelming for me. Especially if I'm walking in a particularly like pretty place or even just a simple countryside, I get immensely overwhelmed with the beauty of things. I we used to live in Walker, and I would take the dogs on frequent walks in the countryside. And there'd be times like I was glad I was just with my dogs because they're not going to judge me for randomly crying and having a fit, because this dirt road and the way it looks in the sunset and the way that the hill and the weeds and the flowers and the hay and whatever, all just it's the perfect, beautiful visual moment. I will start crying because I'm like, this is so beautiful and I don't deserve to see it. I don't deserve to be in its presence. I don't, whatever. I don't know if that's why I start crying. I don't know why I feel the way I feel when I'm on walks, but it is what it is. Thing I can't pronounce I think it's Japanese. I don't want to even try to pronounce it because I don't want to butcher it, but it's forest bathing. So I'll include a link of that amongst other things somewhere. But they say that essentially like getting lost in nature and just living in that moment of whatever you feel like, whether it's uncomfortable, whether it's, you know, um, whatever, is really therapeutic. And I just haven't ever allowed myself to try because when I have done it in the past, I end up getting really sad and emotional, and it just sets me back days, if not weeks, of unnecessary grief. Immediate group of safety will have to see and deal with because that's where I'm at. So to my mind, aka Brynn. Um, Again, I call my mind Brynn because to me it makes me feel a little bit of a disconnect and not so guilty for having the brain that I have. Whether I was, born with it or it was created or whatever the case. With Brynn, I'm going to share stuff specifically about like the last 10 years. Um, so when I met my husband, I knew by day 3 he was mine. I actually told my brother after I think our second or third date. I told my brother, I was like, if he asks me to marry him tomorrow, I'm gonna say yes. So anyways, we got engaged, started living together, and then I slowly started to lose my mind. My therapist has said that the reason I started to go into like a mental spiral, so to speak, is because I felt safe with my husband. And that's when Bryn was able to revisit some, traumas or things and heal. But also at the same time, I was resisting the healing. So it's just like this perfect storm of chaos in my head that I couldn't deal with. And therefore I lashed out. So, and thankfully, my husband loves me, and we persevered and everything, and I was able to start working really hard on myself. And just kind of a FYI, I guess, to those that don't deal with it, it is hard work to truly work on yourself. I've been with my current therapist now for um, three three years this summer, and it is the hardest work I've ever done in my life. And thankfully, I've found someone that works really well with me and is able to handle those moments. But anyways, getting back to that, I don't remember any of the actual fights. I just know that I caused a lot of them, and the only way that I can explain it is um, my love for him and his love for me were like challenging all the walls that Bryn had spent years developing and building up and all that stuff. And it was, again, terrifying. So I lashed out. I tried to total up, not only my therapy appointments, but like my drug lady appointments, the alternative treatments I've done, excuse me, and like all the stuff I've done since 2021 probably amounts to about $15,000. No joke. And that's again just since 2021. So, that's a lot of money. It's expensive to be kind of crazy. um, so continuing on with, like what it's like to have brain or a brain, whatever you call your brain, even if you just call it brain, what it's like. I have very, 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 very vivid thoughts and dreams slash nightmares, and something that I call my mini movies, which essentially is kind of like watching a movie in my head, but it's so real that I will have like physical and emotional turmoil from it. I swear I got a touch of schizophrenia or something. This isn't a one size fits all. Everybody who has any kind of mental illness, even if you don't, like, everybody is different. Everyone has their own DNA, their own stuff. Like, so this isn't all schizophrenia, just FYI. But anyways, like one of the hallmark manifestations is like, let's say I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I see a hand right here, but there's no hand right there. And that's a very poor example. Like, I see something here, but there's really nothing there. It's not just seeing it in my head, which is what my mini movies are. I truly think there's something tangible outside of my head here. Another thing is like auditory. Someone with schizophrenia might hear um, things that aren't there, uh, stuff like that, which I actually have heard stuff that's not there, but I was living in a haunted house, so we're just gonna go with like that was legit hearing something and it was a ghost. So anyways, I don't actually, again, I don't see anything in my space or hear anything, but experiencing these mini movies, it's like I'm watching from the sides as something atrocious is happening. Usually it's always my kids. I'm sure a lot of moms out there, maybe even dads, like you just get that built up um anxiety about all the things that could hurt your kids, all the things that could go wrong, all the things that could kill them, all the ways they could be hurt in the world. So I'm not saying again that I'm special in that regard, but that's just usually the subject matter of my mini movies. Before I had kids, it was my niece. Before my niece was born, it was um well, I don't want to go into that, but anyways, so I'm watching this happen like a movie is playing in my head. I am reacting to it emotionally and physically. Like I'll start crying, I'll start tearing up. An example of one that actually happened not too long ago, we were driving to my youngest son's wrestling tournament. And again, I don't think I'm special in this regard. It's not that uncommon to think of, your kid getting hurt playing a sport that you're on your way to or whatever the case. So anyways, I had a mini movie that he ended up dying on the mat because some D-bag kid was being too rough and, body slammed him the perfect way, so to speak, on his neck and he was killed. So I start to think my son is dead. My son has just died in front of my eyes. Like it feels in every sense of the word feel that it really happened. So I'm tearing up. I'm looking in the rearview mirror, like okay, he's back there. I think he's back there. I'm not just seeing things. He's breathing. He's not dead. He's not lying lifeless on the mat, and I can't get to him because all these idiots are in my way, keeping me from getting to my son. And it doesn't matter that I see him there and that I know that that didn't actually happen because in my mind, um, it happened. In my mind, he is dead. And so I started, I had my sunglasses on and I was driving and all the things. And I started tearing up and sniffling a little. And I just like whispered to my husband, I was like, I had a mini movie, ignore me. If I don't want the kids to ask me what's wrong. Like just, if I start crying, just turn the music up louder or something, just ignore me. And my go-to to recover, so to speak, from those mini movies is not the best genre to think of either, but it gets me out of that feeling that it actually happened. And I have no interest in sharing what that genre is, but just know that I think of something, and in a sense, it's another mini movie. It's just not the death and whatever of my kids. I wish I could start with those, the non-fatal mini movies, the non-awful mini movies, but usually I'll have one out of nowhere and then I just jump to this other genre as soon as that mini movie finishes. And something my mom has said, because I shared with her one that I just had last week, and it was a bad one. And I was driving, by myself and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't figure out any way to make it stop. And I had therapy that morning and a dream the night before. So I was on an emotional roller coaster doesn't do it justice. It was just a day that sucked and I would have rather slept through it all. Anyways, I had that mini movie and told my mom about it and she was texting me like, breathe. Does it help to go back into the mini movie and like control the outcome or like whatever? And I'm like, no, I have zero control in those mini movie moments. I am just like a bystander with glued to a chair, tied up, whatever you want to say, with my eyes sewn open and my mouth sewn shut. I cannot do anything in these moments except watch the horror unfolding in front of me. It sucks. Next thing about what it's like with Brynn is I can't ever agree to things. I help and be useful and be part of the team and all that kind of stuff. And at the time, well, let's see. So 2 years ago, 'cause I was on a really heavy antipsychotic and also uh, an antidepressant, of course. And I mean, it just, oh, it sucked. It made me feel like I was a zombie all the time. Um, I imagine, I think I could maybe do a good job painting the picture of like if you imagine like being exhausted, but you can't go to sleep for whatever reason. That pain of just needing to sleep, but you can't. But your face and your eyes and your mind have not gotten the message that your body can't lay down and actually sleep. So your mind is trying to shut down, your eyes are shutting down, your body's trying to shut down, but there's actually nowhere to shut down at. That's kind of how I can describe how that antipsychotic made me feel. And I was actually at one of the volunteer things that I text my husband and be like, you got to come replace me. I can't do it. I cannot keep my eyes open. I might actually just go fall asleep in the car until I might even just stay the night in my car because I don't think I can safely drive home either. And thankfully he was available and, came to relieve me. But um, I'm not on anything that makes me like any med that makes me feel that way anymore. So that's a plus, but I still have to be really careful for what I commit to because actually just recently I was offered something and I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then later I had to text him back and I was like, wait, I need to think about this some more. And I don't walk around, with a big sign over my head that says, hey, I got bipolar, or hey, I might not be able to do that, blah, blah, blah. Like people don't know this about me unless I share it with them. Obviously, whoever sees this is going to know about it. So again, please try not to be weird with me or treat me differently, but I have to think about things a lot harder than probably the average person does because while I might be on my mountain when I agree to this or I'm offered to do this or asked to do this, I'm like, oh yeah, I got that. Like, got your back, Jack. Like, I'll be there 10 minutes early and I'll stay 2 hours late and I'll bring something for, like all the things. Yeah, I'll be there. And then what happens if I'm in my valley that day? Like, it sucks. It sucks hard, and they're expecting Mountain, Tori to be there and show up with all the things that I said I was gonna do, and it's like, I think I can show up. I think I can, be there physically. That's all I can give you. And sometimes I can't even do that. Uh, so anyways, I'm very in tune with myself. I'm very much aware of the limitations that Brynn creates in me. It's chronically storming today. um, and I own my weirdness. I own my Brynn. Like it is what it is. People are either going to accept it or not, and whatever. So, anyways, kind of in line with that is on days of my mountain. It's not just about volunteering for other things. It's, like I remember, I think it was a week, it was like 2 days I was on a mountain. And the first day we went to the lake and spent time with my husband's family. And I was chatty and talkative and just so engaged in everyone else and wanting to, be around. And we got home and I started making a list of everything I wanted to do. Actually, I think I started that day as soon as we got home because in my head, either on the way to the lake or on the way home, I started thinking about all the things I wanted to organize because that's the thing that my mountain brings out is organizing. And it's frustrating, I think, for like my husband and my family because I can't usually when I'm in the mood to clean, it's not just a simple I'm going to do the dishes and wipe the counter. It's I might start there and then I get a squirrel moment and I'm like, no, I gotta like deep clean and organize the fridge. I gotta deep clean and organize every single cabinet in our house. And that particular weekend, I deep cleaned and organized, I think, our entire kitchen and our pantry and then our little like hall closet. So anyways, there's moments that I also have to be careful with that because it's like, oh yeah, I'm in that moment now, but what happens if I'm just rapid cycling? So there's this other thing with I don't know if it's just specific for bipolar or if it's like anyone that has kind of a mood fluctuation disorder, but I will do what's called rapid cycling, meaning I could be heavily in the valley on top of the highest mountain, numb, back to the mountain, back to depressed, back to numb, and then stay numb, for the rest of the day or stay in whatever cycle I end up being. So it sucks because, I can start projects, but I usually don't have enough energy to like actually finish them. And again, I know this about myself. So it's kind of like, why even bother starting? Because I might not be able to have the energy to finish it or the mental wherewithal to even know, like, okay, so I want to reorganize the kitchen. Um, what all does that include? Like, just absolutely asinine thinking that because I don't have the mental space to figure it out. And something that I've tried in the past when I've been on my mountain or even just out of the valley, not necessarily on my mountain peak where I'm like that manic, but just being um between like manic and numb, in this weird space that I assume like average people live in on the regular, kind of just happy and thriving kind of space. I have to be careful there too because it's like, well, an example is like your calendar for my ideal week. And it was like, okay, I'm going to time block the crap out of this calendar and I'm going to put in everything I want to do down to the second. So that way I'm productive and I'm not wasting any time and I can, be a better person, be a better mom, be a better wife, be a better nurse, be a better business owner, all the things. I just want to be better. And I will do that. And it like the next minute, I'm like, okay, that was exhausting to think about all that and then to put it in the calendar and to make it and color code it and do all that other stuff. So now I'm exhausted. I've got to lay down on the couch because I'm mentally exhausted, which makes me physically exhausted. And then it just sucks. And then so I'll see that, calendar of on my ideal week, for example, since I'm on that road. And then I'm just like, sleep is sleep is better. I'm going to take a nap instead. Or I'm just going to lay here on the couch because I mentally cannot deal with anything. Because if I deal with anything, then that's going to bring out the mini movies or have a higher chance of bringing out mini movies or, XYZ type thing. So I'm just going to lay on the couch. There's all that. And the other thing too is like people will tell me, oh, schedule time for this in your calendar. It's like, great, I can do that until the cows come home, but who's gonna actually care if I do it? I'm not gonna care, because again, numb or don't care. Even when I am on my mountain, there's zero self-love here. There is zero give a craps about Tori. So that's another fun part about it. But so even when I am on my mountain or I'm energetic or I want to do the things, it's not like I'm doing anything for myself. It'll be for somebody else, kind of a thing. When I'm on my mountain, I like most recent, well, and again, this wasn't even my mountain. I was just in between numb and mountain. So we went and played catch and baseball as a family. I finally had energy to get off the couch and do that with them. And it was great. But then, and I think I'm skipping around here. I don't know. I'll try to figure out where I'm at some point. But the downside of those moments is I feel the weight of all the guilt of, wow, like my kids don't really get non-couch mom. They get couch mom 90% of the time. And thankfully, my kids are old enough now that they can entertain themselves, they can entertain each other, they have friends, they have sport, like whatever, all the things. So it's not like I'm their whole thing anymore. But it does suck to like, not have anything to give them because it's all I have to stay breathing. Um, so anyways, to them. And that's something I struggle with every facet of Brynn is, if I was just better in some way, I would get the love that Brynn craves. And I'm not trying to say in any way that I'm not loved by my family because I very much am. It's just one of the things again with Brynn. Like I always assume that there's part of me that's unworthy. I shouldn't say assume, like I always feel like there's part of me that's unworthy or their time, their love, their attention, their whatever the case may be, because I'm just a burden in every sense of the word and in every sense of the whatever. So, all right, I need to get back on script here. Where am I at? I wrote in here, I feel like I'm a delicate flower petal in the darkest corners of my mind, but I have to put on this front 24/7. I'm actually having my younger brother draw something because there's this artist, I can't remember his name. I'll again link the thing in the comments, but he does dark art and he has a book, I think it's called like It's All in Your Head. And it's basically, a whole bunch of like however many mental health disorders and his kind of interpretation of that through his art. and it's very, grungy and obviously dark and all the things. And I was, I looked at his for bipolar and depression and all the things, and I was like, I mean, yeah, that might be it for like the generic general definition of those mental things, but like that's not what it feels like to me. So I'm going to try to describe this in the best way I can. So I have my brother with his art, like making something, but I want it to be, a face behind a mask. So if you've ever seen Phantom of the Opera, like that's the mask that I wanted on the face. And under the mask, there's this manic smiling, like Joker type smile from Batman. And then the mask is going to be, like just this neutral kind of smile thing. And it's got little cracks all over it, but there's just water flowing out of the eye hole. And then another mask, kind of what I feel like. I feel like there's three different parts of Brynn, and the third most prominent is the mask, what everybody on the outside sees. It's exhausting to keep that mask up all the time. And even in my home, I don't feel like I can take that mask off because, again, like that's a burden to everybody around me. So I usually just let all the masks come off when I'm in therapy or with my mom. So, digging into my diagnoses, I always thought PTSD was something that, our military members that was just for them because they are kill or be killed sometimes overseas. They see horrific things in wars, or people who have experienced like, they escaped a serial killer or, witnessed a murder, or, just truly horrific things. That who I thought the only people who could get PTSD was. And it turns out that's not true. Um, Again, we all have our DNA, we all have our brain. I kind of feel like in a way, you just have to like walk on eggshells around everybody because you never know like what they're gonna perceive as trauma and what's going to stick with them and what's going to mold their future in that PTSD like brain outcome kind of thing. So anyways, I thought all of that. But our brain can actually not distinguish imaginary pain, imaginary trauma from like real life pain and trauma. So knowing that, I could have very well given myself PTSD from my mini movies, from my nightmares, from even just my regular dreams. It could have been stuff, like I said, I've gone through, heard, seen, felt, did all the things of stuff. I'm trying to keep this focused on me because I don't want to speak to anybody else's truth, I guess. Like it's real. And so my brain can't perceive that I didn't just watch my son die. My brain feels and reacts like I just saw my son die. And I have these mini movies daily. Like with my medication regimen, they're not as frequent as they have been, but I will still go through these ebbs and flows where I have a ton of them in a short time, and then I have like a week of where I don't have any. Usually going to bed is the worst because as soon as I'm in the dark, I'm not afraid to admit it, I'm scared of the dark. So I start having a mini movie about something and I'm like, nope, I don't want to think about that. Like, get up, go do something. Usually I get on my phone and I just randomly watch funny cat videos on Facebook or Reel, whatever they're called nowadays, or just some sort of funny video, something to get me out of my head because when I'm alone in my head is when it's just terrifying. Again, believe I was born broken and have always been broken. And like, let's say, me and my twin, I don't have a twin, but just as an example, me and my twin have the exact same upbringing experience, everything the exact same. My being born broken created this like hole or little fissure or crack or whatever you want to call it in my brain for all of these things that is having no real impact on my twin is creating this hole in my head of hate and like self-loathing and voices of you suck, you're never, you're stupid, you're fat, you're disgusting, you're all these things, you're never going to be worth it, like your kids would be better off without you, you're a burden to your husband, you're a burden to your mom, like stop crying home to mom about all the like just all the things. So it's in there. Imagine like all these little seeds of trauma that I've experienced are in there wreaking havoc and growing instead of like pretty flowers or whatever, it's growing. I don't know what to say. It's just not pretty flowers. You know, I admit and acknowledge and know that I carry a lot of broken parts. I'm trying to mend them the best that I can, and it's work, and I probably will never be fully mended, but again, it is kind of what it is. Well, no, we're not going to talk about that. Yeah, like I said, you know, this video has been a months long endeavor, and I can't always put myself back into that space mentally or physically. So like reading some of the script, like the one I just skipped over, it's like, what does that mean? Why why did I put that in there? Like, when did I feel that? When did I think that? And I'm just like, whatever. So it's kind of it's frustrating. Um, you know, looking back at like my childhood, I used to be so outgoing. I was fearless. And I think looking back on it, I was outgoing and fearless because at the end of the day, who cares? You know, like if I was gonna go parachute jumping out of a plane and my parachute broke and I died, who cares? You know, like, does anyone? No, no one cares. So, you know, whatever. Let's go out. Let's do all the things. Let's have fun and excitement and whatever. I don't recall a whole lot of fears. I don't, and the I did have, you know, like anxiety. I wouldn't call it necessarily fears, but like one of the things that I very clearly to this day remember, I don't remember when it was, but it was around the same time that everyone was saying like the world is going to end in 2012 because of whatever. Um, I could not escape that conversation or that theory or that mindset or whatever. Everybody was talking about it. And so me, my mom, my younger brother, and there was a third person there. We all went to Walmart. Okay. We get past the foyer where all the little checkout lines start, and I just freeze. I just freeze. And it like, can you see my hands like talking about it? Like it just, oh, it freaks me out. I it was instant. Nothing warranted this thought to come in my head. Me and my family weren't talking about the end of the world. It was just an instant intrusive thought. And so everybody split up. Okay. Like my brother went this way, my mom went that way, and this third person went that way. I froze because I thought, you know, like if the world ends right now, by whatever reason, whether it's like just a thumb of God type explosion and the whole world ends, or like whatever happens, whatever ends the world, if it happens right now, who am I going to go after? There's no way I can save everybody. If I go after my brother, my mom dies alone and thinks she's not loved. And again, this kind of goes back to the whole when I was younger, like, what job am I going to do? Because someone's going to feel left out and unloved if I don't pick the right thing. So it's like, if I follow my brother, my mom and this other person die alone. They die with strangers or completely alone. They think that I didn't care enough to get to them. And also probably thinking that my brother died alone. Okay. If I go after my mom, same thing. My brother is going to die alone. And I think this is like an inner family thing, or maybe it's just in my head thing, but like my younger brother and I mean, I'm pretty close with all of my siblings, but my younger brother and I, in my head, have a different like dynamic because my mom was working a lot. Okay. So, I didn't share this, but my parents are divorced, been divorced since I was like itty bitty. I don't know how old I was, but, so my mom was working all the time. We either, you know, my older siblings would be watching us, or we had nannies or babysitters or whatever. But with my younger brother, like, I mean, I taught him how to write, I taught him how to drive, I beat the crap out of the kids that were being mean to him, you know, like all the things. I felt every bit of that kid's mom. And maybe that's part of where some of my issues come from, because I put myself in that role before I even knew what role it was. And I obviously that young, way too, you know, not mature enough to handle it and all whatever. That's going off the deep end. But so anyways, at Walmart, everybody splits up. I freeze, and I don't really have any memory after that. I don't know who I ended up reconnecting with. I don't know if I just froze there and stayed there until they all came back and eventually found me. I don't think I was crying or hyperventilating. I was just a paralyzed ball of numbness and terror. So that is my first panic attack that I actually can remember. My child, as far as like panic attack and stuff I went through as a kid, I don't actually have a lot of memories, which is another hope of the EMDR, that I can like resurface some of these traumas and heal from them, you know, mend them in some way. But so anyways, that was my first like adult, if you will, panic attack. I've had a couple here recently. The most recent one was, I think, over winter break, and I had just got done reading a book series that was full of adventure and love and like all the things. And I was actually I finished that series, and like the next day I wanted to watch The Last Unicorn because it was like my favorite movie growing up. And I got, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes into that movie and I started freaking out. I was like, my life is never gonna have this adventure, this quest to go on, this like all the things that I thought, were never gonna happen in my life. Like it just panicked me. And I don't even know why. I was like, I don't know if that's the root of that panic attack or if it was something else. And that's just what my brain could come to the conclusion of. But I started, again, hyperventilating. I couldn't catch my breath. I started shaking. Like, see that? Like, I don't know what's happening. But started shaking, all the things, eventually started crying and like wailing. And like it was terrifying. I don't know who all is seeing this. If you've had a panic attack, yours might look different. That's what mine end up looking like. It's like, okay, there's this movie, I think from the 80s or 90s called The Langoliers. It's a Stephen King movie. Like this plane full of people end up landing, and there's nobody else on Earth except for these Pac-Man looking things that you can hear them like chomping their way to you. And it's this eerie thing. And eventually they get to the plane and they eat everything in the world, kind of a thing. But that's how I can explain how it feels when I have those panic attacks, or even those moments where my heart stops. I think it stops because I think like I'm 100% alone. Like there's nothing else going to happen, or nothing I can do except be in this loneliness, and there's no way to end it. There's nothing I can do except live in this. I can't even put into words how lonely it feels. So like when I had that recent panic attack, not only was I feeling the like, oh, the no quest, no adventure, no blah 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 blah, all the things, and then it was like, God, I'm so alone. I feel so alone. Like there's like, even if I was, by my husband and he was comforting me, or my mom or my kid, like whatever, I'm just like, there is such an empty sense on my inside that it kind of sometimes connects up here, and I'm like, wow, I am so alone. I have no idea how to deal with it. And actually kind of jumping around a little bit, but with my firstborn, I had horrific postpartum depression. And I remember months after he was born, I could be surrounded by my entire family and feel empty and alone. Like there was suddenly this human that I created was outside of my body, and his presence that I felt in my body was gone, and that was feeling a void that I didn't know I had. And now suddenly like that void is an exposed nerve every second of the day, and I just feel like this emptiness that and loneliness that nobody in my physical space can fill, kind of a thing. So whatever. um let's see. So going back to the thing I said earlier about the whole mask thing, as you can imagine, I am a lot better with strangers because it actually gives me energy to give them a facade of who I am, in a way that, like, but it's also exhausting at the same time because, like, if I'm at, some, well, it's not really, actually, I shouldn't say it's exhausting. It actually kind of gives me life in the moment, but then it's really exhausting afterwards. So I think like in modern words, that's called not an introvert. I don't know, like I'm an extrovert introvert. Really, really, really frustrating being me. And I imagine this is because of the bipolar, because you got two ways of thinking or feeling or whatever. And I don't know, I'm just assuming that. But it's really hard to know for like my friends. Like we'll put strangers to the side for a minute, but like my friends, my loved ones, I distance myself from them on purpose because it's not fair to them to think they're getting mountain Tory and then get valley Tory or get numb Tory, like all the things. It's not fair to them to get something that they're not expecting or haven't been groomed to like expect. So like strangers, I don't know if I should say groomed or not, but so strangers, like I say, if I used to love waitressing. Oh, I loved it. And bartending. And I think one of the reasons that I thrived in those jobs is because every single person had a fresh, brand new mask on. Like no matter what my personal problems were, they stayed at the door. I did not carry that monkey on my shoulder, and I just like dived hardcore into the job that I was doing. And physical manifestation of Brynn is March of 23. I actually had to go to the emergency room because I was having seizure-like symptoms, and I've never had seizures before, never a thing. But my arms were like, it's funny now looking back at it because I imagine I looked like like I was jump roping sideways or something. And but like my it's kind of how I feel now, honestly. Like I was just like constantly like had no control over it and shaking and everything. And it just got I got so freaked out that it escalated. And my legs, like if I was sitting in a chair and my feet were flat on the floor, my heel would be jumping and my leg would like halfway be jumping off the chair because of these like seizure like movements. So anyways, I had just had a massage, wonderful massage, and something I haven't shared yet, but I have chronic vertigo, and I flipped from my back to face up, and something about the way I flipped, or it was like a perfect storm of things, like the way I flipped, the smell, something triggered a vertigo event. And so I got off the table, and I don't know if anyone's had vertigo. I don't even like explaining it because honestly, just talking about it, I'm probably going to end up getting dizzy. It's like some people think, well, vertigo is just an inner ear problem. And yes, I do have those bulging eardrums. But riddle me this, Batman. I will get vertigo after an intense therapy session. I will get vertigo talking about it. I will get vertigo based on like someone else talking about it. Like if I will randomly get dizzy and it has nothing to do with my ears. So I think it's more a brain thing than whatever. So had the massage, got vertigo. After the massage, was sitting there paying, talking all the things, and that's when my legs started jumping. And then it was freaking me out. And my vertigo was already kind of going crazy. My other leg started jumping. I was trying to use my phone to pay because Venmo, and um like my phone, like I started going like this kind of, or it was just one, I can't remember how the phone went, if it was just one hand or both, or if it started this. Anyways, so I was freaking out. And my massage person is a nurse, and so documenting the time this started, gave me a glucose chewable tablet thing, and thinking like maybe I was hypoglycemic at the moment. All the things. I ended up having to call my mom and drive me home because I was not safe to drive, and I actually had my youngest son there with me. So anyways, go to ER. CT is fine. Everything's fine. All my stuff is fine. My ABGs. All you nursey people are gonna know. Like I always get them confused. I had I don't know. I was hyperventilating. So whatever, ABG is off from that. And the doctor comes back in and essentially just says, nothing's wrong. I don't remember if he said it or if maybe like talking after the fact, my mom and I started talking about it because I was like oblivious to what was happening around me because not only was I having the ABG deficiency, whereas like, I was hypoxic essentially, like I was like, I don't know, shaking really bad in my fingers and my joints. And sometimes when I like cry really hard or I get hypoxic, my hands will lock up like this. God, why am I shaking so much? So they lock up and it hurts. Like if you've ever rested on your elbow and you end up pitching a nerve that innervates to your hands, like your hands will kind of get numb and tingly and they may like lock up like that. That happens to me a lot. So anyways, in the emergency rooms that was happening and all the things, after being discharged, nothing was wrong. So my mom and I and my massage lady, we were all talking about it and come to the conclusion and act like stress induced seizure essentially. So being numb isn't always a great thing because stuff like that can happen. So when I'm in the valley, it's really bad. It's not just a simple, I'm kind of sad today. I don't know why. I'm just sad. It is like debilitating, aching, and exhausting sadness. And again, for no reason. Like there's a lot of people who again don't have mental issues, will have warranted situational sadness, and grieving and all that kind of stuff. I grieve and have sadness for no freaking reason. It's really hard to explain what it's like and to be able to like put it in a way that someone knows like how it feels without experiencing it. I have a great support system. I'm super thankful for that. And also, again, like this is one key of I assume bipolar. Like I'm very thankful, but also I have an immense amount of guilt because I put my family through but like they experience my bipolarism with me. Like if I'm dormant and on the couch and I can't do anything except lay there, they see that. And I at the advisement of my therapist, I kind of explained a little bit about what my mental issues are to my kids and of course to my husband. Um, Maybe 2 years ago, and I was just like, I'm gonna have these moments where I'm really chatty and energetic and able to do all the things, and then I'm gonna have moments where I can't do anything. And I want you guys to know, like, it has nothing to do with you. It it's and they know I call my brain Brynn. They know my mountain is manic. They know my valley is depression. They don't know like the intimate details of all that because they're kids, and they don't need to know that. But when they come home and they see me on the couch, I needed them to be able to know I wasn't going to be much use to them that day. So again, grateful that I have the support system and I don't have young kids that need me, to do all these things because that would just be so much more exhausting and hard. But again, guilty that I'm a burden to them. Like, let's be honest, it's a burden for them. And I don't think that they think this way, but I have a habit of like feeling things for other people, even if they don't feel them, or putting my like shoes on their feet and then imagining how I would feel. So when I imagine like what it must be like for my boys, or my kids, I'm just kind of like, do they ever go to a friend's and see like this really engaged mom that's, you know, I don't know, doing something with them, and they wish they could have that kind of mom? Because then again, that goes back to they'd be better off without me. Um, but in the times where I am on my mountain, I try my best not to get obsessed with organizing because that, like I said, that's my go-to whenever I'm on my mountain, is to put my energy to use. Um, but I am making it a mental note, and actually after talking with my husband, like I'm making it more of a priority to do whatever they want to do. Like my youngest is super athletic. You want to go play catch? Cool, let's go play catch. My oldest is very artistic and also athletic. So we'll either go play catch, us three together. Like I said, we just did a baseball thing as a family a week or two, well, 2 weeks ago. Whatever they want to do that is engaged with them. So they feel that connection, they feel valued and loved and all things. Because no matter where I'm at mentally, I never want them to live in my shoes, to talk to myself the way that I talk to myself, to be the person that I am to myself, and to be the person I am to whatever. So I want to make sure that they know how much they are valued and how awesome they are and all the things. And I'm not saying that I didn't get those things as a kid. Um, my mom had to work a lot, and my parents were divorced, so my dad wasn't around. Like lots of families, unfortunately, are that way. But remember, like I was born broken, so all those little seeds of um, maybe I, was having a hard time, and my mom was at work, so I had nobody to hug me and tell me they loved me at that right moment. That was a seed. That was a seed of building up Brynn, or that was a seed of whatever. So anyways, I'm getting lost. I don't think I've covered yet is, well, I kind of did with that whole panic attack of reading the books and the movie and all the things, but I have to be really careful what I take in. Books I read, movies, TV shows, even music. I have to be careful in all those things because I can get so deep into it, so invested into it, that I start to take on whatever feelings I'm projecting onto like the storyline or to the cast or whatever the case may be. I actually started a new book series and had to stop reading it because I was just so invested in it. And again, starting to feel like, God, I'm never gonna have that kind of I think it was like a werewolf book or something like that. And I was like, I'm never gonna be able to turn into a wolf. Like it was stupid. But in the moment, that it is what it is. And I felt the way I felt and it sucked. So I have to be careful, even like for entertainment value, what I take in. And so I mentioned earlier, I think like my dreams, my nightmares. Um, there was one of the meds I was on, actually made my dreams feel so real, like realer than they do on the reg and or normally. And I had a dream that my husband cheated on me. And I woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and I was distraught. And I like it felt like it happened. It felt like that really happened. I didn't just wake up. It was, all the things in that moment. And it was like midday into that next day before I realized, wow, that was a dream. That didn't happen. He never cheated on me. But I felt like it. And I like that whole day I went through, what am I gonna do? Kind of a thing. And so I had to get a hold of my drug lady and like I can't, like my dreams are real enough. I don't need this extra layer of they're really real, even though they're not. And like, I don't want it. I can't. So this next part is going to talk about self-harm and like suicidal stuff. So again, remembering what I said earlier, if you are at all feeling vulnerable, not safe, whatever the case may be, stop watching or skip this section. Watch it with a friend, loved one who, you know, can help you through what you're feeling. Do what you have to do to stay safe. And I want to make sure I'm very clear in saying this. I'm not in any way advocating for self-harm, but I want to paint a picture for all the people who don't have that drive to self-harm, whatever that looks like for everybody, what it's like and kind of why people who are prone to that drive do what they do. Or get relief from it. And again, just keeping in mind, this is my perspective. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just trying to share my mental health journey to help those out there going through it similarly. And at the end of the video, I plan on, you know, going through all of my treatment and all that stuff. Like I said, like what's worked, what hasn't, and then like oh my God, everybody needs to do this. If you have any kind of brain issue or traumatic brain injury, mental health thing, like whatever, if it involves your brain, everybody should do this. So, I'm not an avid like self-harmer type person. Growing up, I would cut and burn myself a lot, and I now again with my meds, like I just have that overall kind of numbness feeling to where like I don't feel the need to do that to get the relief that I had from it. Prior to this year, prior to this med regimen that I'm on, I would cut or burn myself. And like I said, when I was a kid, I did the same thing. I actually have a lot of scars on my arms from going to parties and playing chicken with whoever would play it. And then another time, going back to like the burns, I was younger than 13 because it was at a house that we lived in until I think I was whatever age. Anyways, I was young. And I had my bike on its top. So like the handlebar and the butt seat were on the pavement and the wheels were up in the air. And I think I was actually trying to fix something, or maybe I just randomly got this in my head. Hey, this is a good way to feel the pain kind of a thing. So I started making whichever wheel you can make go really fast when it's in that position by spinning or moving the pedal. Got that one to go really, really fast. And I just stuck my arm like right under it and just moved my arm back and forth, and it, you know, ripped off several layers of skin. I have some scars from that too, but it's odd that even at that age, like I got relief from those types of things. Like it was there's, if anybody watching this is like a fancy brain scientist, neuro person, chemist, whatever the case is, like hook somebody up who has the drive for self-harm, and like hook them up before, hook them up when they have that drive, and hook them up during and after they do the whatever their act is, because I can't even describe like the relief. It makes no sense to me, so therefore I can't describe it. But adult life, it was actually more stress after, I guess, actually after I got married. It was more stress to find places to get that relief, because I was like, no matter what I do, someone's going to know, someone's going to ask me a question, someone's going to see. And I realized, like, and if you are hurting yourself out there, you are cutting, try this, because it might not be as drastic. It might not have to be as drastic as maybe what you're doing, but I would just do little cuts on my finger, you know, just something, because I don't think it's about the intensity or the size of the cut. For example, if people are cutting, we'll just stick with that. I don't really think it has anything to do with the size or the depth or anything like that. At least for me, I'm able to get that relief with just, I mean, honestly, like almost a paper cut. I don't use paper because paper cuts are the worst, but you know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't, whatever, slit on the finger, instant relief. I don't know what it is. So whoever out there in the world is smart and sciencey and all the things, figure out a way to make a PRN medication out of it, because it would help a lot, and then give it away for free because it would help a lot of people. Okay, moving on to my suicidal ideation. It is commonplace for me to want to be dead. Now, I don't, okay, for me, there's a difference between, I don't actually like want to die. I just want to be dead. I know that makes no sense, but in my mind, like those two are different. For example, like, driving in my car and then thinking, like having an intrusive thought of, dying in a car crash, I will have a physical reaction of like that relief sigh of, wow, that would just be what a reprieve, that would be, because my daily is not the best life. So, it is what it is, kind of a thing. Another thing, I guess, which I don't really know why I included this, but it kind of makes sense. I guess just to go back to the fact that I'm 99% certain I was born broken, is because like growing up, when me and like my siblings or my friends or whatever, we were playing games, I always had to be the character that would die, or was, the damsel in distress, or was somehow not going to make it to the end of the game. Like something was going to happen and I was going to like have this Shakespearean death scene and it was going to be glorious and all the things. Looking back, I think that was just my young mind trying to deal with the fact that I didn't want to be alive. Yeah. So, kind of, I think I talk about this in the next chapter, topic, heading, whatever you want to call it, but my mom actually had to take me to a pediatric mental hospital when I was young. I think she said I was like 8, and it was because I was just on repeat, wanting to die, gonna kill myself, all these things. Okay, so when I was in middle school, fast forward a little bit here, I had to go to work with my mom once, or a couple times, I think, because I was hurting myself at home. I don't honestly know, like, if I called her and told on myself that I was doing it, or if she called to check on us and I was crying. Like, I don't actually know how all that happened. But the end of it, she left work, came, got me, and I had to go to work with her so she could keep an eye on me and keep me safe. Okay, so fast forward to like the turning point in my adult life as far as my mental health goes. It was August of 2021. My kids and I were in Kansas City, and we were in one of the malls on the second level, top floor. And all those malls have like open ledging, so you can like see the stores below, and it's like waist high on an adult kind of a thing. So we were walking around, all the things, and I just had this thought come into my head, and it was very detailed. It was kind of almost like a mini movie, but I've never had them about myself before. So, an intrusive thought, if you will. And it was me going to the ledge, sitting on it, tucking my chin, and then diving backwards, like at a perfect perpendicular to the floor with my neck tucked. Because in my head, I was like, oh, that's instant gone, instant gone. And in my head, my kids would have been better off with any of the thousands of strangers we were with than having a broken mom. And it was definitely the most real suicidal thought I've had, or ideation, whatever you want to call it. Because I remember walking to the ledge, putting my hand on it, and turning my back to it as if I was going to follow through with what I had just seen in my head. And this is something that I didn't share in detail really about it on Facebook, but I did share that, like I don't know that I'll ever share with my kids how they literally saved my life, but they ended up getting my attention by the Lego store, and I snapped out of it. Like, I started shaking really bad. I couldn't cry because, again, in front of my kids, like, I really don't like them seeing my mental status like on my sleeve. Like, I try to make sure I have a pretty solid mask on for them, even if I am dormant on the couch. At least they're not seeing me cry and like them, whatever. Anyways, so they distract me. We go into the Lego store and I drop a pretty penny because it's retail therapy. And but like on the way into the store, as soon as they got my attention, I was so shook. I've never had a thought about wanting to die like that, and one that I almost acted on. So now I'm going to go into the treatments. Keep in mind, this is all the stuff I've tried. I'll tell you if it worked or didn't work for me. But like I've said so many times, like, we are all different. We all have different DNA. We all have different brains. We all have different blah, 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 blah. So, if I say something and I say it didn't work for me, but you've never tried it and you want to try it, do it. Just get help if you need help. So I already explained, my mom took me to a pediatric mental hospital, and it was in Wichita at the time. I already kind of went into the whys about we went there, and they wanted to admit me, which thankfully my mom instead just brought me home. And I say thankfully because, I have seen mental hospitals for pediatrics. And of course, they're the ones I've seen like today, not ones back then. I don't know if it would have been different or not, but I'm very thankful that she brought me home instead of having me admitted because who knows what my life would have been like or where I would be and all that kind of stuff had I been admitted. My childhood, my family was in therapy. Again, my parents are divorced, so we were in therapy for that. In middle and high school, I abused my relationship with the school counselors almost because I was using them as my personal therapist because at that time we couldn't afford for me to go to therapy anymore. Um, my high school pediatrician ended up putting me on Zoloft and Wellbutrin. Did nothing for me, so I stopped them pretty soon because I was not seeing any effects. Which now I realize it's because I was having those struggles because of the bipolar, and those don't address bipolar. They only address one part of it, and my part was so on another level. Those meds were just not going to touch it. So let's see, and I wasn't on meds again until 2021. And I realize now, though, looking back at that time, so from I was 13 or 14 until like I was, I don't know, 2021, I was using like self-medication, and I didn't realize it actually until I was putting together my outline for this video. And I was like, wow, like, I used to smoke, I used to drink on the regular. I would actually be one of those kids in high school that would take a Sunny D bottle or whatever orange juice, and it would be like half full of vodka. Don't do that. If you are watching this and you are a minor, please talk to somebody. You can even reach out to me. Like, I'll try to help you if I can. I don't care if I know you or not. I'll try to be there. So anyways, heavy drinking, smoking, parties, all the things. So I was using a lot of self-medication to deal with my mind at the time. 2021, as I said, is when I had that suicidal thought, started seeking help pretty close to after that. My primary doctor put me on Abilify, which is a pretty heavy dose antipsychotic. I was having acute tardive dyskinesia, which means like in my body, I felt like could not escape my skin. Like I was constantly fidgeting. I'm not a fidgeter. I was constantly fidgeting. I couldn't get comfortable no matter what I was doing. I just felt like I had to move. I was restless. My fingers would do random things, or I'd suddenly have like a tick with my finger and I'd be like, doing that on a desk or whatever. And I was like, I can't even tell you if it was helping my mental stuff because I was so focused on the side effects. So stopped all that. And then I don't know what we tried after that. I actually don't remember all the names of all the drugs I've tried, but believe you me, I've been on at least like 25 different meds since 21. So a lot. And one of the one I shared with you, it was I think it was Lamictal. It was an L1, and that's the one that gave me the very real dreams. Even so, if something doesn't give me relief, but instead I'm having a lot of side effects, I'm not going to stay on it. Like sometimes side effects will wear off, but if they are noticeable, hindering the way of your life type side effects, no, at least for me, no, thank you. Like I'd rather have the depression and everything else and just deal with it kind of a thing. I've also been put on stimulants like Vyvanse and amphetamine, so to give me more energy, because I basically live in like a zombie state where I have very little energy to do stuff. And these unfortunately didn't really work for me. And as I get to here in a little bit, one of my newest doctors, we think that they didn't work because my brain is so overstimulated already that being on a stimulant was actually counterproductive, and it wasn't helping my energy. Like I was on, I think 60 milligrams of Vyvanse and I was still needing to nap. And then I was on, I don't know, 40 or 50 milligrams of phentermine, which is a like beefed up stimulant, like stronger than Vyvanse, even at the same dose kind of a thing. And I was still having to nap or still exhausted and couldn't make it through the day. So last year, like I said, I saw a psychologist for a psychological evaluation. She did all of the standard, nationally accredited, whatever tests and everything, and came to the conclusion that I have general anxiety disorder, bipolar 2, and PTSD. It was hard for me to hear all that because, again, PTSD was not something that I thought an average person would ever have, because other than in my head, when have I ever, seen the stuff that people who have PTSD and are reliving those situations daily? I've never been through anything like that. So PTSD was really hard for me to like agree with, and I I fought it for a long time. Like anyone who, with my Facebook posts and stuff, anyone that I have shared with, like PTSD is the one that I whisper I have because it's like I just don't feel like I deserve to say that I have that. Um, she also did note, which going back to what I said earlier about my mini movies and how I think that I have like schizophrenic traits, she did note that I have schizoid traits, which is again where my mini movies probably come from. So last summer I saw okay, at this point, we're in last year. I'm in talk therapy. I had the psychologist evaluation. I have no idea what meds I'm on at that time, but I'm on meds because I've been on meds routinely since 2021, like October or something. So we'll just call it the beginning of 22. Um, so last summer, I go to Wichita and I see a functional medicine doctor who recommends home ketamine treatments. And my therapist had actually been recommending ketamine treatments, like the note. You can go to places and do a nose spray. It's called Spravato, I think. And you're there for like 4 hours because ketamine is something that they use to put people under with surgeries, but it's also a hallucinogenic. So there's this company called Mind Bloom that does home ketamine treatments. And I'm a nurse. I grew up in the medical world. I know like how to take care of myself in that sense. And I know how to look for things that, okay, this is a sign this isn't working, or this is a bad sign, or hey, maybe we're on it. I get all the things. So I was comfortable doing a home program. Plus, they require you to have a babysitter, for lack of a better word. And every time you do a treatment, you have to have your babysitter sign in and everything to make sure that you're both like there together. So I did one treatment, and I was very nervous about getting dizzy because my vertigo, as with a lot of other things I go through, it's debilitating. I'm nervous about that, and thankfully, I didn't get dizzy with it. I didn't have any like relief, or I didn't trip out or anything on my first dose. And so they're like, okay, you didn't have any side effects or adverse effects, like let's up your dose. The second time I did it, guys, I had a solid week of amazingness. I had energy. I was, dare I say, happy. I was like laughing and having fun with my family, who unfortunately are the ones who, like I've said, they're the first ones to experience my downsides. And it's again, not that I'm lashing out at them or anything. I'm just, I don't talk to anybody and I shut down and I'm dormant on the couch. But, in that week, oh, it was amazing. And then I ended up like something with after the second treatment or third treatment, you have to see your clinician again, or your guide counselor, whatever they're called. And I couldn't get our schedules to align, and I was following the direction. So I didn't do another treatment. I went like 4 weeks without one. And so like the momentum, if I had any momentum, was gone. Or I was just on my mountain and attributed it to the ketamine. No idea. So anyways, I got on the highest dose of the oral ones, and with the Mind Bloom home ketamine thing, like the way that they have the oral stuff is you put these dissolvable tablets in your mouth, you lean forward, you let all the saliva collect in your mouth, and therefore the ketamine is gonna absorb through your mucosal membranes in your mouth, and then you spit it out after like 7 minutes. So that way you're not getting too much, you're just getting enough to experience like feels or whatever. That was really yucky for me. And I have I don't know, like I have some rescinding gums, and I always thought it was because I smoked, because that was what a dentist told me all those years ago. But I noticed like on my lower gum, where a lot of those dissolvable tabs were, I actually had went to the dentist and they're like, oh, you're having some recession down here. Like, are you, whatever. I was like, okay, I don't know if it's because of the ketamine or not, but I did another treatment in my mouth and like one of them touched that, and tooth pain is another level. So I like almost jumped out of my skin. It hurt so bad. So I told my clinician, I was like, I don't want to do it anymore unless I can graduate to the sub-Q version. Sub-Q means, you're injecting it into your fat. So, we're all in agreement. We were, doing the things. I started out again on the lowest level of the sub-Q type. And the first time I didn't, it was just a treatment, a nice relaxing time for me for an hour, because you have your headphones on, you're listening to this guided meditation, you have eye mask on that they send you, and it like blocks all the light. It has like this extra pillow around your nose and your eyeballs and everything. So like there's no light coming in. And again, for me with vertigo, that was also kind of scary. But my second one, I had my first trip and it was kind of cool. I don't do drugs. I've never done any like recreational drugs outside of like marijuana when I was younger, and I always had a terrible reaction to it. So I was like, this is stupid. Why do people do this? I always ended up very, very, very sick. And, so obviously didn't do that. But so I wasn't ever doing the ketamine to get a trip, but that was also kind of one of the qualifying ways that they gauged your experience and dosing was how you reacted to the treatment. So this one, where I think it was my second sub Q and I had my trip, I don't even remember what happened, but essentially like I was underwater, it was black, and there was like, if you remember Ariel, what is that called? The Little Mermaid, in the Disney cartoon movie where Ursula has the little like algae, whatever, like rope things that catch people for and all the stuff. That's essentially what I was going through in that trip. And everything was starting to get black and I was starting to panic and I was like, no, like forget this. And I thought about God and I was like, carry me away, carry me high. And I instantly shot up like this, like I was flying straight up from a skyscraper type thing. And I was in the clouds in a sea of clouds and flowers and also I don't know. It was interesting and it was funny and all the things and everything just felt very psychedelic. Again, that wasn't my goal, but that's kind of a side effect of the ketamine. And the reason why ketamine is so kind of coming out, I guess, in mental health is because there's something in ketamine that actually helps your brain be neuroplastic, meaning it can how do I explain this? It doesn't rejuvenate itself, but it like so, your brain, everything in your body has cells. So the easiest way I can think of to explain neuroplasticity is like your cells in your brain have a life cycle, just like all your cells. And the neuroplasticity of like with ketamine is creating new cells to be around in your brain. Hopefully I'm explaining that in a way that makes sense and not butchering it, but in my mind, that makes sense. So anyways, that was really cool to me because I also really struggle with concentration and memory and recall and all sorts of stuff. Makes going to school super hard. But so I was all for that. I was like, give me all the things that's going to make my brain function and allow me to retain and recall and memory and all the stuff. So that went great. I did another treatment sub Q and it was nothing to write home about. My last one, I have no idea what happened. Because with this, you're not supposed to eat, like at least I think 2 hours before any treatment. It was 4 hours that I had ate. And at this time, I had also started taking semaglutide because unfortunately, a lot of the weight that I have, nothing I'm doing, I'm sidestepping for a moment, nothing I'm doing is working. So, doing the semaglutide to try to help lose some weight. So maybe I can, my butt, whatever. Anyways, so this was my first ketamine treatment after I started my semaglutide injections. So I was thinking, because I got really, really sick during the treatment. I started like cold sweating and shivering and I just felt achy. And like, I don't know, halfway through, like before you emesis, you start salivating and like you're swallowing kind of a lot. And it's it's like a tell that you're about ready to, and so I was doing that. And thank God I had enough, I was with it enough to realize that's what was happening. Cause as soon as it happened, I heaved myself over onto my side and, everything came out. And also having a babysitter, like I think there was a Chiefs game going on. So I told my husband, I was like, I've done this enough, like it's okay. So this was also like a my fault thing because I didn't really follow their safety measures. So if you do it, please don't do that in case you do get sick and need somebody to help you. Like I said, I was with it enough and knew enough about my body and all the things that I could tell what was going to happen, even being in that state. So got super duper sick and I was spinning and dizzy and so much vertigo that I got into the shower because I was trying to, sometimes getting in the shower really helps my vertigo. I don't know why. Sometimes it makes it worse, just kind of a flip of a coin. And got in the shower, had to have my husband help me out because I like was gonna, oh no, I took a bath. That's what it was. I was laying on my side in the bathtub and I was like, I can't move. So my husband had to help like lift me out of the tub and step over the side. And I went to bed like directly from the bath and just laid there. Because sometimes with my vertigo, depending on what type of vertigo I'm having, I can lay in a dark room or I need light everywhere and I just close my eyes because when I'm in a dark room and it's completely black, I will open my eyes and if there's nothing to focus on me, it's going to send me spinning again. So like I have to have a night light in our room so I have something to focus on if I wake up in the night, which I do a lot. So anyways, that's my experience with the ketamine. I did cancel it. I haven't done it again because I'm just too afraid to have an experience like that again. And it wasn't, other than that one time where I had that 1 week, and now I'm kind of wondering if that wasn't just the being on my mountain. It didn't do anything for me. But there's that way of doing home ketamine treatments, but you can also go to centers around you and do the Spravato, which again is that it's a nasal inhalation. And like my therapist, who actually started talking to me about Spravato and ketamine treatments and all that kind of stuff, um, like past patients or clients of hers that she was like telling me her experience and knowing about this, like they were in a boat similar to me, and 6 months of doing these treatments, they were like, it was life changing. So that's what I was holding, and that's what I wanted. I might at some point try this Spravato again, just because maybe that different route will be more, I'll be able to like tolerate it. I don't know. I might try it, I might not, but it wouldn't fit in my schedule anyway. So okay. I have done, like I said, I've done EMDR. I don't remember what that stands for. At the time that I was doing it, I don't think I was actually open to it. I was still very guarded, and I didn't, not that I didn't want to get better, but I just didn't want to open myself to it. Whatever. I don't know how to explain it, but I am going to start it again. My therapist and I kind of agree, like I'm starting to have, like I saw my therapist last week, and it was after a dream I had about our old one of our old pets that we had, and it was a very traumatic dream and chaotic situation going through and all that kind of stuff. And so my therapy session was kind of a lot of dealing with that. And like I said, at some point in this, like I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood. So to have this specific part of my childhood come out of nowhere, it kind of led us to believe, like, all right, maybe some things are starting to seep out through the cracks, and now I'm ready to have more of a benefit from the EMDR and be more open to it. So there you have that. Again, I don't know, I can't think of what it stands for, but it's basically like bilateral parts of your brain and body. So with my vertigo, the last time I did it, which I'm going to try doing it the visual way this time, not a lot of hopes that I'll be able to do it, but this time that I did, it was just the sound. And it was, going, I had headphones on, it was going in and out of my ears. And I would also tap on my legs, like opposite sides of the body. I don't know. It's a science that I don't understand. And so there you go. I'll try to include some links you can research, do homework. I've also done EFT tapping. And so it's called emotional freedom technique. And it's been around forever. I have friends that have sworn by it and actually turned me on to it like decades ago. And I think that I would benefit from it. It's just going back to the energy side. I don't have the energy to do it. And I do it on my own. There's no one around to make me do it or for me to do it for. So if it's for me and relying on me, I'm just not going to do it. That's just the honest truth. So the most success that I've had medication-wise has been on high doses of duloxetine. I actually, over Christmas break, I had to titrate down and stop taking like Vyvanse and Latuda. I was on Latuda at that time, and I had to titrate down on my duloxetine because I was actually having signs of serotonin syndrome. And again, I don't really understand what that is. Somehow it's life-threatening. So when I called my drug lady and I told her, I don't even remember why I was looking up the symptoms of it, but like my eye twitching, I was having facial twitching, I was having like 11 signs of serotonin syndrome. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So she guided me through discontinuing the Latuda, the Vyvanse, and dropping down on the duloxetine. But duloxetine actually helps with my vertigo. So, and I'm gonna, I had to stop taking all of my meds the Friday before my brain scan, which again, I'll get into more in a minute, was the last day I could take my meds, including like the phentermine, which was my stimulant. I had horrid vertigo Monday, during and after my appointment, and like the whole night. And usually when I sleep, I can sleep it off and kind of reset, and I'll be not so dizzy after I come back to. But this time it was just all around awful, and I ended up MSSing. I don't know what the action word of that is, form, whatever. And like right before my appointment on Tuesday, I like everything from the last 3 days had come up. Not fun. So anyways, the duloxetine helps with my vertigo. So I'm actually back up on a higher dose, 90 milligrams. I'm also now taking clonidine, which is supposed to help with my mini movies and vivid dreams and just vivid like thoughts and everything. It's supposed to kind of calm down my brain a bit. I don't think it's helping yet, but it actually helps me sleep, like stay asleep the whole night. Because before it, not only was I staying up really late because I couldn't trust myself to close my eyes and not have a mini movie, I would also toss and turn all night. Like I would wake up, toss and turn, fall back asleep, wake up, cycle and repeat. So I was not getting adequate sleep by any means. So I'm doing the duloxetine, clotidine, and they also started me on Caplyta, which is actually a newer bipolar med specifically for type 2 bipolar. And I think it's too soon to tell on that one. So, okay, so now finally coming into the almond clinics. This is what started this whole endeavor for me, because I wanted, like I said, if I can help one person shorten your journey through hell by my experiences and what I've done and like this almond journey, I want to do that for you. There's no need to suffer and go through it alone and guess at your diagnosis. Not saying that, you know, my diagnosis from my psychologist with the psychological evaluation, they ended up being spot on. So not to say that those kind of tests aren't valid, but for me, if you're like me, like having it on paper doesn't mean the same thing as like actually seeing your brain and someone explaining to you, this is why you feel this way. This is why you feel this. This is a bipolar 2 brain. This is a PTSD diamond. PTSD diamond, that all brains we see with PTSD have this diamond, like all the things. It's amazing. Gonna leave all the information I can for you, and I'm gonna actually show you my brain here in a second. So, okay, my current therapist had been actually talking about almond clinics since we started our journey together. At first, it was just like some of the supplements that they offer, because Dr. Amen makes supplements that have the brain like at their core of what they're wanting to work on and what they want to thrive. About 2 years for me to find, I don't know what happened, that I was in her office and I was like, I need you to send me that number because I can't do this anymore. But something happened. Something was a breaking point, just like I had that breaking point in 21 and started therapy and drugs anyways. Meds, not illegal drugs. So anyways, made the appointment over spring break, went to Dallas. They have 11 clinics in the nation. Dallas was the closest to me. So I drove down there over spring break. I could have gotten in sooner, but I didn't want to take time off school. And you do 2 brain scans. The day 1 brain scan, your brain is activated. Like they do this frustrating test, and you basically press a space bar on every letter except X, and it is so hard to do. And they also inject I'm not going to say it right. I think it's like some sort of radio liquid, to where they can see in your brain where oxygen gets to. It's going to look really cool and make sense when I pull up my brain. And so they have you do the test. They do the scan. It takes about 11 to 15 minutes, and your brain is, active from just working on that infuriating test. And then the next day, they again inject that little radioactive liquid thing. It's not radioactive, I shouldn't say that, but it's some sort of thing. And they have you at rest. So they put you in a nice quiet room. For me, I was again having serious vertigo. So I was like, I need the lights off, because there was like fluorescent lighting and it was freaking me out. And I was like, in a closed room and I'm claustrophobic, like it was just a lot of things going wrong. And I was like, can I have a blanket and shut off the light? I'm gonna lay down and close my eyes. And they're like, that's fine, just don't fall asleep. Deal. So a few weeks after that, I had my follow-up with my mental health doctor. She was amazing, walked me through all the stuff. And again, I'm going to share it with you in a minute, and explain to me what my brain images was, show me a healthy brain versus my brain. And like, I was able to see those differences. And she didn't just talk to me or talk at me. Like, she asked me to, like, what do you see here? Like, what differences can you see? And I like explained all that I saw. And she's like, yeah. So, again, I'm like, the whole purpose of this video isn't to be a me party and, everybody look at Tori. I want to shine the light on Amen clinics, because I think it's a shame that not every mental health professional is not recommending this. And some people don't know about it. Like I said, there are only 11 clinics in the nation. That's not a lot. And, unless you're actively seeking this out, I don't know if it would come up like on a Google search, help me deal with my brain. That's probably not going to come up and give you anything solid. So I want to put it out there about the clinic, and I want as many people to see it as they can. I want everybody who's having issues to go to it. It is an investment. They don't take insurance, but you can get what's called a super bill and submit that to your insurance, and they will do payment plans. They take care credit. There's ways of getting it done if you need it to get done. And at the end of the day, I just don't want people to go through this little jaunt of hell that I've gone through, if I can help them. So Let's see. Now I'm gonna share my screen. I don't remember how long ago it was, but I was thinking about um I was thinking about Brynn, and I was with my mom, and just immediately this little bat from Anastasia popped in my head, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Brynn. Like that is my Brynn mascot, if you will. And I mean, Anastasia's a fun movie, but this just reminds me of, I don't know, it's just funny. So anyways, okay, so this is a healthy brain on the left, and on the right is a very dramatically unhealthy brain. One, you can see it's pretty, I don't know, there's not a lot of divots here. It's symmetrical, all the things. Like this is looking at it from the chin. This is looking at it from the top. I think this one is like left and this one's right, or I might have those mixed up, but gosh. This is called a SPECT scan. So it's color scans that show the brain's blood flow and surface and activity. The actual color really doesn't mean anything, so don't pay too much attention. And it's a radioisotope. That's what I was trying to say earlier. That's the idea that they give you. So this is my brain. So cool. So this is at concentration, this is at rest. I do have, like, my doctor explained it as I have a very decent brain. She said it was between healthy and not healthy. Like, obviously it's not as bad as it can be, but it's also not healthy. So a lot of the key things that I'm not gonna, I know this is a long video and I'm trying to like speed through it, but I also like, this is just so cool. So I'm not gonna go over every single detail. So actually I'm not even gonna do my notes. How do I? There we go. Okay, so concentration, rest. As you can see, I have a really prominent divot right here, a bump or whatever you want to call it there, one here and one here. On this side, there's this bump right here, which is this one right here. And then rest, I still have a lot of the same things. Like they look pretty normal or similar side by side. You can see this divot here isn't here at rest. I can't go away. I don't know if that's going to be in the way or not, but let's see, this divot is still, again, they're just not as prominent at rest, I guess is a good way to say it. So this is that right? Yeah. Okay. This is a healthy SPECT active view. So this is looking at your actual like vessels in your head, I think. I might be wrong, but I don't want to mess with my notes, so I don't know. But this is a healthy version of the brain. This is not my brain. Okay, this is my brain. So the key thing to remember here is, I'm gonna have to get my notes. So blue, all this blue that you see means healthy, steady brain function. Red is good, but too much of it, let's see, it's an in the middle thing. Like too much is not a good sign, and red in other spots except for by your cerebellum is not a good sign. It usually indicates inflammation. White is only supposed to be back here at the back of the brain. It's always working. It's like the heart of your brain. Think of that. So you should always have white back here where your cerebellum is. So going back to mine, let's see, I think I can go back to that. As you can see, I have a crap ton of red and a crap ton of white. My blue looks pretty good. Here is that PTSD diamond or trigger. So I didn't believe or accept that I had PTSD until I had this brain scan. So yeah, and it's interesting because on mine, my cerebellum's in the same place as everybody's, but you see I only have a little bit of white. Everywhere else is white. So that's bad. And then the red, again, that was only supposed to be like kind of sporadic and back in this area where it's most active. It's everywhere. I have it all over, and even at rest, it's all over. So it just means, this essentially means I just have a very active, overactive, hyperactive brain and probably a lot of inflammation, and then the PTSD diamond. There's other things, like she said she knew I had bipolar by looking at my brain scans and not even reading my history. I don't really remember why or what part of it, but yeah. So this is that healthy underside view, because she said basically the underside is the one they really pay attention to. So this is that healthy one I showed you in the first one. This is concentration, this is at rest. So again, it's supposed to just be red back here at the cerebellum and white. I have red everywhere and white kind of everywhere, and very little white where I should have white. So I don't remember what that means, but so at the concentration brain, the lack of activity in my cerebellum means that it's not making enough neural pathways, which is why I have what she calls acquired ADD, because without this, I would not have the ADD. But the stimulants and my ADD and my brain and all that kind of stuff just keep me in a constant fight or flight, which is not, sustainable and everything. So that's why she prescribed me the clonidine to slow everything down, try to slow everything down. This is the thalamus, and mine, of course, is overactive. As you can see, this one has nothing. And she said that she could tell that I really struggle with like motivation and action in life because of my brain at rest. It's she said she was able to tell that I really just go through the motions and there's no actual inertia or desire or passion. It always made me feel like I was in the wrong thing or doing it wrong or somehow wrong and failing at it because I didn't have that sense of passion. She also said that she can tell by both of these that I'm constantly battling those intrusive thoughts, having the crazy, vivid dreams that are sometimes hard to distinguish between reality and imaginary, and the mini movies. And then having this diamond, it's more prominent here, but you can see parts of it here, just confirms her diagnosis and the previous diagnosis of PTSD, bipolar 2, and generalized anxiety. Kind of my takeaways for this, now that I didn't even really spend that much time on the almond clinics, but everybody should go through that, because if I would have started that, in 21 or even as a kid, because they do take kids. I see there was kids in the room when I was there. Like, so I think anybody can do this. Who knows where I would be right now? Like who knows how different my kid's life would be if I would have known about this treatment sooner and done it and everything. Like who knows how different our lives would be, and I would guarantee for the better. So my key takeaways for this are, like, first, for those watching that don't have health issues and aren't here for, like, I don't know, camaraderie or whatever, and just kind of curious or stumbled upon it or whatever the case, or someone who's struggling and maybe want to know how to help them better. I cannot stress this enough. If someone comes to you for help and when they're struggling, please shut up and listen. Don't try to make it feel better. Don't tell them, well, maybe you're, like we've all seen those memes where it's like, gosh, how does it go? People with anxiety are thinking about the future, or people with depression are thinking about the past. No, that's utter crap. Maybe for some people that actually applies, but like for me, when I'm depressed and in my super low valley, I don't even remember my past. Like, how can I think about it? So just don't try to make it better. Just shut up, be a friend, be a loved one, be there for them, and say, like, I don't know what to say. I don't know that anything I can say is going to make you feel better. I'm going to be here for you. I will be here through you with it. Just know I don't know what to say. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to know the answers. I will say I'm very blessed to have an amazing therapist and an amazing mom who both of them do know what to say. But sometimes they don't, like last week when I was having my mini movie and it went pretty dark pretty fast, and I went to my mom's because I needed a hug. And I broke down in front of her and was like, I just, why am I here? Like all the things. And sometimes, like she does, I can't even say that. Like, even when she says stuff that like I don't agree with, or it's like you don't understand, like, because sometimes people will say, if someone's thinking about like, I just don't want to be here, or I'd be better off, you'd be better off if I was dead, I'd be better off dead, all the things, they're like, that's such a selfish mentality. Doesn't help. That will not help. Do not say it, because that's just going to make people like me feel more guilty about having those thoughts and feeling that way and not knowing how to fix it, and feeling more like a failure because we feel that way and you don't. So just, unless you are a licensed professional, just zip your trap and be there for them in some other way. And if you are someone like me and you need somebody, find someone. If you don't have a parent you can go to, or a sibling or a friend, there are therapists near you. You can find somebody. There's therapists online that you can do virtual with. Find somebody. And if you don't like who you go to, find another one. I've gone through, well, it took me 3 to get to the one that I'm on now. You don't, just because you're paying them for a service and you kind of maybe build a rapport, does not mean you have to stick to them and it feel right. Trust your gut. Go to someone else. Like, it's okay. Yeah. So if you know someone who is at risk or thinking about harming themselves, find help. Get them help. I'm not saying you have to have them committed or institutionalized or call the cops or admitted to the emergency department or whatever. Encourage them to seek help. And if they share with you, like, they've got scars and you see these big, massive ones, and they're going to do it anyways, they're going to keep doing it because that's all they know to feel better, maybe suggest trying a little, tiny cut. I mean, it's okay to suggest things that are less severe. And again, if you are watching this and you are struggling, don't wait. Like, figure out a way to get to the aiming clinics. They will help you. Like, that is their whole thing, to help. And one of the diagnoses I forgot to share, like, is I have traumatic brain injury. No idea how or where, but like my brain, like some of those divots that I showed is an actual like brain injury, for I can't think of whatever. So they will look at all that. You can't get that from a CT, from an MRI, all the things. Like, they're just looking at tumors, cancers, that's it. You need to go to a mental health specialty brain scan thing. I wish I would have listened to my therapist when she first started saying it, but I just thought it was hokum, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do it. Like, no thanks. And again, how different would everything be if I would have listened and started this treatment with them sooner? Because not only do they hook you up with the mental health doctor, but you also get a functional medicine doctor. So they're looking at your entire being, brain, body, all the things, because it all works together. So please look into it. And again, I'm going to have like links and all that kind of stuff. I shared a lot of treatments. I didn't specifically share what meds I've been on, other than a couple that I could remember. But again, as I've said, I'm different than you. What worked for me might not work for you. What worked for you, or what didn't work for me, might work for you. Meds may or may not be necessary for you. So just talk to a professional to figure out. And I would say talk to a mental health professional, because our primary doctors, yes, they know like stuff. They know wanting to die is bad. They know like the meds that they can prescribe, but that's kind of a band-aid for what the root is of why you're having all those thoughts. So I would just say go to a mental health, and if you have to have a referral, which would be ridiculous, I think, go to your doctor, say, I want a referral to a mental health professional. Okay. And like I've already said, can't stress this enough, if you've been on any kind of a journey mental health wise and nothing is working for you, or I deserve to have a thriving life. I do not deserve to be held back by Brynn. I do not deserve to be held back by my mental health issues. We deserve to thrive, just like everybody else. If you are not at that point yet, keep going. Keep finding stuff. Please go to the aiming clinics. I cannot stress it enough. I'm not thriving by any means, but I'm a lot better now than I was 2 months ago. And, I went down there in March and have been on the meds since the end of March. So that's not even a full month of being on these meds. And I have barely even started my journey with like their functional health doctor, because there's, some thought that I might have like autoimmune disease issues too, because again, brain is broken, therefore everything is my body broken. So I haven't even started that yet, because all that lab work takes for freaking ever and it's not back yet. So I think that's it. I'm going to try to stay up on like people that like comment or message or reach out in some way, because I very much believe that we should be there for each other. And I'm not saying like we as in the mentally ill, but like we as in humanity. And if a stranger out there has no one that's helping them, let me know. Like, I don't know what I can do, but I'll try. I'm gonna include links to like everything I've talked to, links to the aiming clinics, some of their articles, stuff like that. I'm also gonna I'm decided yet, put in some songs that I really relate to, that might help people who don't struggle with like severe depression and stuff like that, that can kind of maybe put you in that mindset to understand it a little bit more. Because I get it, we're human. If we're not in those shoes, like, get over it. A lot of people have said that to me. It's like, if only I could. So yeah, I'll do all that. But I hope that whoever needed something from this got it. And if you know somebody, I hope you share it. All the things. Take care.